Week 188, this is our Memorian, and in this video, we're going to talk about the Toronto real estate market and where the hell it is, where it's going, and not at all talk about where it's been because nobody has any time for that. I think it's right now at a point where we can stop comparing the Toronto real estate market where it is now to the peak. Let's compare it to more normal times, shall we? So let's talk about listing inventory and pretty much everything else. I'm a little bit late to the game today, so hopefully you've been patient. But 188 weeks in a row that the Spring Team, myself, have been following the market since March of 2020, every single week, picking up on trend after trend after trend, while everybody else is just freaking out and highlighting random, anomalies as sort of the way the market is, which is not true, but hey, it gets clicks, whatever. You do you, boo. Okay, so looking at the numbers, remember how last week we talked about the condo supply not adding on, in fact, pulling back for the first time in like 6 or 7 weeks. The good news is that we only added a handful of units this week, so the smallest little bump that we've had in a little while. So that's 2 weeks in a row of below average listing supply being added onto the market. So let's see if it happens one more week in a row. If it does happen again next week, there's a chance we might be turning a corner in terms of condo supply, where we were peaking at around this amount, around 2,500 units. And you can see all the data in the actual blog, which is linked below in the comments. That's where all the meat is, guys, by the way. Like, we're talking here, we're doing whatever, but the meat of this information that I'm talking about is in the blog at TheSpringTeam.ca. It's linked below, so please go there, look at all the charts. I've got literally charts since March of 2020 that I've been tracking in there. So it's really important that you go in there to get the full context. So listing supply hopefully will be peaking around this point, but we'll see what happens. I mean, October 25th is the next rate announcement. If there's an increase, that's gonna definitely get some people to trigger rate territory, which will affect their payments, which could affect more units coming to market. We shall see. I don't know. I saw a statistic last week that showed 3 more increases being priced in by the banks right now. Like, I don't know if that's realistic, but regardless, I've seen a number of different projections, models, and scenarios. But every single one of them agree that there will be downward pressure on rates towards the second or third quarter of next year. What's up for, I guess, debate is what's going to happen from now until the second or third quarter of next year, because that's a lot of time. So how many rate increases can possibly happen in this period of time? Personally, I think if the goal is to completely destroy the economy, which is heavily reliant on the real estate industry continuing to do its thing, I think would be a massive mistake. But at the same time, who am I and who are you to say that? It's one of those situations where if rate hikes are your only tool, then you kind of have to overshoot, because the risk of undershooting and how that might affect inflation down the road is too high. So I don't think there's been a point in history where it hasn't been overshot in this type of scenario. So I don't know what's going to happen. Personally, I feel like there's enough people feeling pain out there, and there's enough gas taken out of the market where we're no longer contributing to these inflation as real estate was. But now it's more of the interest portion of real estate payments that are contributing. But of course, that's such a minor thing that some people like to highlight as like, oh look, inflation's going up only because mortgage payments are up. Not true. So don't follow that narrative. There's a lot more complexity involved here, a lot of global issues, lots of local issues, all that coming together to affect supply chains and demand and supply and blah, blah, blah. There's so much more to it than that. So it's not just one singular item. Well, if they just didn't raise rates, mortgage interest rates wouldn't go up, so inflation would come down. No. Anyway, so again, we're not day trading real estate here. So if you're making lifestyle moves, you're making lifestyle moves, whether it's now, whether it's next month, whatever it is. You've got different motivations, like 99% of buyers do, with the exception of those like investors that are in the market that are looking for opportunities and trying to, time things appropriately. But that may not be you. It's not me all the time. It's me sometimes. And I don't usually do a very good job of timing the market, to be honest with you. Every time I've done well in real estate is because I've bought and held, honestly, or I've gotten lucky otherwise. But supply side of things is nicely slowing down, and not just downtown. Like, we're talking in all the communities that we track, from like the Lee side to Yonge and Egg I find a lot of people really like to talk about Yonge and Eglinton with too many condos and blah, 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 blah. Well, in Leaside, Davisville, Yonge and Egg, that whole big area there's only 200 condo listings. It's not that much considering how many condos exist in those areas. Like, that's been one of the better performing areas since the beginning of COVID. So anyway, I think that a lot of people don't quite understand condos and who might be demanding access to condos, and maybe considering their personal situation of being longtime Torontonians who got into real estate a long time ago and can't believe that somebody would like to live in a 400 square foot condo, where that's very normal and healthy for a lot of people. It just may not be your experience with real estate. So I think it's really important to really take a step back right now, and a lot of people need to just stop talking about things that they don't know anything about, myself included. Like, I'm no longer predicting anything. And I thought that that's what my value was to people. It's like, oh, he knows what's going to happen, so we're going to hire him and his team. Turns out that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, there are, indicators that we pick up on that lead us to believe something might happen in terms of, which way the market might swing. And generally we are correct as to what's going on, but we just never know when. And so and the team, we're just focused on taking care of our clients at the highest possible level. And I think that getting all caught up in the weeds of the data too much is taking away from having effective conversations with people who are actively in the market, and sometimes unnecessarily scaring somebody or giving somebody too much optimism. Whatever it is, I think is a big problem in the market. And it just comes with growing as a professional and, focusing on what's right and what works. And it's great that all of you are watching this and listening to this and stuff, but there are people out there that have given us their trust and hired us to do what we need to do for them. So my focus is on them primarily, and making sure that they're taken care of and treated well, and their listings look great, and we get them prepared nicely, and our buyer clients are handled very nicely, and they know that everything's working smoothly. Like, that's where the Spring Team's focus is, more so now than ever before. There's always time for this, but anyway, so the market overall is, like, honestly way healthier than a lot of people give it credit for. It's certainly not the same as it was during the frenzied COVID years, but those were not normal years. So, like, we have to stop comparing things that are happening now to things that happened then. Sales have been very stable for many months in a row now. And you're gonna read articles and hear things that say, oh, sales are way down, they're way down. But that's when the base effect comes into play. It's like, what are you comparing this to determine that it's way down? And how long of a period are you looking at prior to that peak to make sure you're averaged in enough of normal to make sure that we understand the context of today better, and not just looking at a market with a massive interest, hike with economic issues, and comparing it to a market where people were buying a house every day, it seemed. So all of that context is really important, and that's what we spend our days doing here at the team. We spend our meetings talking about it. We talk about it with our clients over and over and over again, and it's the content that we put out. And I think it's really, really important. It's a really nuanced discussion that really isn't served that well in social spaces that have 15 to 90-second clips. I find that a lot of people miss the nuance in a lot of the issues that exist out there. Like, when you are watching your favorite creator on TikTok or Instagram or whatever talk about how the market is tanking, and they'll tell you why, and they'll show you this like proof of, like, look, this person bought this house for $3.5 million last year and it just sold for 2.5 now. Well, we're not really talking apples to apples, because they're not the same house. They have different, benefits and different features and things like that. Of course, it's going to sell for less now than it did at the peak of February 2022. But what's the point in comparing to the peak? Like, there are a handful of people that have homes right now that are worth less than what they paid for them. That is what it is. Like, why would you rub salt in that wound? It makes zero sense to me. Unless that person needs to actively sell right now, they don't care. Why do you care? Are you helping them with that situation? No, you're just highlighting a shitty situation, and you're somehow claiming that you're helping people by doing that. Because you heard somebody say one time, oh, this agent's always saying prices always go up. Well, you kind of missed the nuance in that conversation, right? Real estate doesn't always go up. It ebbs and flows. But long term, it certainly does. When you factor in inflation, it may not be as much of an increase as you would hope for, but you know, if you're younger, you know, under the age of 50, and you can ride out like 10, 15, 20 years, in the worst of conditions, you're going to end up, you know, in a better spot at the end of the day. So, you know, that doesn't mean prices will always go up, but unless some things drastically change in the way real estate has been commoditized and is traded, then it's going to be really hard for me to believe that real estate will be devalued to a point where it doesn't make sense for me to have this asset 10, 15, 20 years from now. So a lot of major financial economic changes need to happen for that to be a reality, but then you wipe out the net worth of millions of people and create a whole economic problem that has a, you know, I don't even want to think about. So anyway, when you take the time to really think through a lot of the potential scenarios in the future, it takes a lot of the drama away from what's happening right now and what you might be hearing out there right now. So I really want to have more of these conversations with you, and I have been actually. Your responses lately personally have been phenomenal. We've had some great conversations with people about what's going on with their specific situation, and honestly, a lot of times it just doesn't make sense for you to be selling. There's no panic required at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air in the short term. Precipice of World War III. I feel like we've always been on the precipice of World War III, but now with, you know, what's happening in the Middle East is absolutely bonkers, and that could trigger a lot of other things too. But we don't know what yet exactly, you know. But we'll have to wait until all that plays out. Like, all I know is that my daughter needs to be in a specific school zone, and we're going to do whatever we can to get into that school zone. So we're going to do it. Other people, same boat. Other people don't even need to move or do anything. Enjoy your lives. So, like, let's remove the drama from the conversation. The real estate space should be a healthy space to have these kinds of conversations without, you know, focusing on anomalies or other one-off events and making it seem like the whole market's this giant shit show because of that. So that is all for today, everybody. 11 minutes and 40 seconds, not bad. Have an awesome week. Make sure you go to the blog and you read every little word that I put out there this morning. It'll be posted at around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This video goes live on YouTube a little bit earlier, so make sure you are a subscriber so you get that notification. And follow us on Instagram. I'm Aramammo, A-R-A-M-A-M-M-O. We have the Spring Team on Instagram as well. And I look forward to engaging and interacting in a very respectful way, of course. Thank you so much, everybody. Week 188, I'll see you in week 189. We're getting close to 200. Peace out.